Hello, guys, and welcome back to class today. Some quick housekeeping as we go into percentages in continuation of our ratios, rates, proportions, and percents unit. Um, these notes are probably your first ones that you do not have hard copies of, no matter who you are. So, as a quick reminder, you can get the blank notes as well as the annotated notes from the student folder. If you happen to have a printer at home, it'd be a good opportunity to print them out and follow along. If not, you can just save them into your Google Drive and use them virtually. Okay, so as we jump into percentages, like I said at the very beginning of this unit when we were all in class together, it's such an interesting and important time to know how to comprehend ratios, rates, proportions, percentages, and percent growth, particularly as we are all staying at home right now because of the coronavirus and its disease, COVID-19, um, to make sense of all of these numbers that we've been hearing about every single day, these onslaught of numbers. So, how could a percentage help communicate these figures? Okay, so number one, these are the numbers from today, from this morning. Sorry about that. 121,000 cases out of 360 million citizens. These are the numbers of the USA. These are the people who have been infected by the coronavirus. Unfortunately, this is our mortality rate so far. B, 2,000 deaths have been reported out of these 121,000 cases, excuse me. Um, uh, Government and public health officials have required 225 million out of 360 million citizens to stay at home. And this is what my iPhone told me. And that you guys are probably experiencing something similar. My screen time was up 20%. So, what do all of these numbers mean? Well, a percentage, like in the last one, can help us communicate exactly, make sense of these numbers exactly. Um, what fraction or what ratio out of 100 would the 121,000 cases out of 360 million citizens represent? For example, if I type that into the calculator and I turn it into a percentage, which I'm going to tell you how to do, percent, um, that is still only 0.03% of our population. Um, 0.03% of our population that has been affected. So it's just like, seems like maybe that's a little more um, intense of uh, communication than 0.03%. So it's unlikely that you'll run into someone with the coronavirus as it stands right now. Okay. But maybe these numbers as we go on will make a little more sense when we communicate um, percentage growth and probability. 200, let's do 2046. 46 out of 121,000 cases communicate in percentage, and that's about 1.7%. That's a bigger percentage, 1.7%. Okay, and part C is 225 million out of 360 million. I could actually drop the millions because it proportionally would be the same thing as canceling out factors. Um, and that is about 66.96. That's what we'll call it 67%. 67%, that is two out of every three people in the United States have been required to stay at home. Interesting. Okay, so what is a percentage and what does it do? Well, if you didn't know what a percentage was, which you probably already had some inkling of what a percentage is an easier way to show a relationship between two figures. It's typically a part of a whole. A ratio out of 100 is a lot easier to visualize, to make sense. 100 is a nice, easy round number. Okay, so it's just simply a ratio out of 100. The word percent literally means divide 100. It means out of 100, right? So you take the number on top and you consider it in relation to 100. So 45% does not mean the number 45. 45% means 45 out of 100 in fraction form. Okay, in decimal form, that would be 45 divided by 100, which means that the decimal would move twice to the left, and it would become 0.45. If you wanted to reduce this fraction, you could factor out a 5, and then that would leave you with 9 out of 20. So the number 45% is not the number 45. That'd be way too big. It is actually a number that is smaller than 1, and it is actually the fraction 9 out of 20, or the decimal 0.45. Okay? And if you have a hard time visualizing part-to-whole relationships, this is where percentages can really help you kind of make sense of how much of the total is being taken up by the part. Okay, so 70%, if you want to just fill in a circle graph, 70% would be, I guess, a little over 2/3, something like that. Okay, 10%, well, that's about that's exactly 1 out of 10, actually. 1 out of 10, I would say something like that. That might be a little big, but bear with me. I'm just guesstimating here. 46%. Well, 46 is a little less than 50, which is a little less than half of 100. So making sense of these part-to-whole relationships, 46% would take up about that much. And then 91% would look kind of like the opposite of 10%, where about the same sliver is taking up what the other part is shaded in. Okay? So hopefully you have some sort of a visual representation. People like circle graphs. Some people like a bar being full. If some people think of, as soon as they think of percentages, they think of their iPhone battery, right? iPhone battery, and then once it gets under 20%, it gives you the yellow or the red or whatever it is, right? So let's convert these percentages as they are communicated into their comparable decimals. To do this, what we're going to do is simply divide the number that is represented as a percent by 100. So I'll do this first one. 70 divide by 100. All we have to do this is move the decimal twice to the left. So 70's decimal is right here. We're going to move it twice to the left to create the decimal 0.7. You would be absolutely fine if you wrote 0.7. If you continued that significant place value and put a 0 there, it's still the same value. Okay? 10%, well, we're going to do that same exact thing. 10%, 10 divided by 100 with the calculator is what you would do, but you don't even need a calculator to do this. You can just simply move the decimal twice to the left to create the decimal 0.1 or 0.10. 91%, hopefully you're picking up what I'm throwing down now, is equal to 0.91. Okay, 46%, as we discussed earlier, is not the number 46. It is the decimal. Well, 46 divided by 100 is 0.46. These are all numbers that are less than 1. 1%, very small decimal. We're going to have to move the decimal over twice and add zeros where we didn't have significant place values. Okay, so 0.01. And now 100%. Well, what is 100 divided by 100? Well, it's not 100 anymore. It's actually the number 1. 100% is 1 whole. Okay? Do these last 3 on your own. Let's see if we get the same answers for these ones, because these ones are a little trickier. Okay, when we're back at it, 5.4%. Hopefully move that decimal over, and it's 0.054. 0.9% is the decimal 0.009. And 12% comes out to just 0.12. All right, so that's going from a percentage into a decimal. Okay, let's see what the next slide prompts us to do. What about going the other way? Writing the percentage that each decimal is representing. Okay, so let's say if you divided two numbers, a ratio, and you came out with 0.15, that means that the part would be representing, we're going to multiply times 100% in this case, it would be representing 15%. Okay, we're just going to move the decimal the other way and then add the super fun percent symbol. Okay, the old circle slash circle. 0.04 times 100%. It's going to be 4%. Just moving that decimal twice to the right now. And 0.6 times 100%. is going to equal 60%. Let's see if you can fill out these remaining 6 problems, and I will do the same. Let's see if we get the same answers. Okay, and back at it. So hopefully you were successful in determining that that was 9.9% on that one, 34%, 72%. This one came out to a decimal that was, sorry, a percentage that was less than 1%, 0.03%. Okay, 103%. So sometimes percentages can actually go over 100%. We're going to see some context in which that happens. And once again, the number 1 is exactly 100%. Okay, moving forward onward. Now, what about writing the percentage version of each fraction? Okay, the percentage version of each fraction. Let's say I was out shooting the basketball, social distancing, of course, but shooting the basketball by myself, as I've seen some of my neighbors doing. I actually haven't. And let's say from beyond the driveway, I made 3 out of 8 baskets. Okay, so the part is the number that I made. The 8 is my total. How would I figure out that percentage? Well, the first thing that I'm going to do is divide through the ratio, right? A ratio is a comparison by division. So I'm going to divide literally 3 divided by 8, okay? And 3 divided by 8 is, of course, 0.375. If you're unsure of that mentally, you can go ahead and throw it through the calculator active unit. Now, we're going to convert that decimal by multiplying by 100%. Okay, so 3 divided by 8 came out to 0.375. We're just going to go ahead and simply multiply it by 100%, and we get 37.5% or 37.5%. Let's do the same thing together with 15 out of 90. All right, so let's say 15. I just kept shooting, and I made 15 out of 90 shots. Okay, I'm getting considerably worse, I guess, in this metaphor. And 15 out of 90 comes out to the decimal 0.16 repeating itself. 16 repeating itself. Now, if I multiply that times 100%, I'm going to have to get 16.6%. Okay, so I was at 37.5%, I guess, in this story. Now I'm down at 16.6%. All right, let's continue this. Pause the video, see if you can make percentages out of each of these respective fractions. I'll pause the video. You guys do the same. See if we get the same answer. All right, and let's check over those answers. For 12 out of 70, 12/70ths, I got 17.14%. 1/8 is 12.5%. 1/4 is 25%. 1 you should probably know mentally. 3/5 is 60%, and 1/2 is 50%. At this point in time in the lesson, okay, I would like you to stop, pause the video, and practice these conversions on IXL. That is 8th grade, of course, and it is module J1. So pause the video, and we'll continue on with calculating percentages after you get to level 60 on that module. Okay, pause the video and practice that, and I should see you practicing that. All right, and then after you've gotten some thorough practice on IXL, hopefully you got to level 60 fairly quickly, or ask questions if you couldn't. With the calculator, those conversions go by pretty quickly. But now let's actually start calculating some percentages and making some percentage problems, or making sense of some ratios with percentages on our own. So setting up and working with percentages, you have to know that the word of would mean to multiply. But also, as a cheat hack, it also would indicate the whole number, okay? The word is would be your equal sign, but it also indicates the part of the ratio, right? And then anytime that you see what or what number, okay, as these very elementary word problems that we're going to start out with, that would indicate the variable or what you are trying to solve for. So let's get an example of what we're talking about here. So if you have to find a percentage of a number, and it's saying, what is 65% of 80? So what number represents 65% of 80? So let's write an equation just based on our algebra skills that we already know how to do. So what represents the variable? Is represents the equal sign. 65%, I'm just going to write that. Of means times, and 80, of course, means 80. Okay, so this one I don't even have to use any inverse operations. I'm just going to multiply 65% in my calculator. If you have the TI-34 calculator, you can actually use the Superfund percent button and multiply it times 80. If you're using your Chromebook or your iPhone, or I guess any kind of smartphone, you're probably going to have to convert that 65% into 0.65 first, right? So in this case, I just go n equals these two numbers multiplying each other, and I get n is equal to 52. So 52 is 65% of 80, and that makes sense, right? 65 out of 100 would be a little less if the total was 80 and not 100. Okay, but there's another way that we can conceptualize these. And yes, we're going to bring back that concept from last week, and that's to use a proportion, right? So using a proportion, what is 65% of 80? So if you understand that a percentage is a number out of 100, it is a ratio relative to 100, okay? You are trying to figure out that 80 is the respective whole that is like the similar figure to 100. And you're trying to say 65 out of 100 is equal to what part of 80? Okay, and like that cheat hack that I was talking about earlier would be to take the words in the problem and know which one represents the part and which one represents the whole. And to do this, we always say the part is next to the word is, and the whole is next to the word of. Okay, so if I am unclear about is 80 representing the part or the whole, it is next to the word of. Okay, so the what is next to the word is, so that is representing the part. Okay, and the 80 is representing the whole number in this particular scenario. Okay, and how would you solve this proportion? Well, we have to go back to last week and we just write a cross product equation. Okay, so I'm going to go 65 times 80. 65 times 80, which is 5,200, is equal to 100x. 100 times x, the other cross product, and I would divide by 100 to find that. As you see, the answer already written there for some reason. X is 52. Okay, let's get another example here. So 14 is what percent of 50? All right, so this one is a little bit different. It doesn't give me the percentage like the last problem did. It's giving me two numbers, one of which is the part, the other one is the whole, and I have to find the percentage. So let's go ahead and just use our equation skills. 14 is equal to n times 50. Okay, 14 is equals what number? There's our variable. Of means times, and then 50. Okay, so to solve this, you're going to have to divide by 50. And some people who have some good understanding or background knowledge of percentages probably already knew how to do this. You're dividing 14 by 50. And when you divide 14 by 50, you get 0.28. 0.28. And here's what I want to ask you. Does that mean that that 14 is 0.28% of 50? And hopefully you're sitting there, no, it does not. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It would be less than 1%. You're going to have to make that conversion. What you have found is the decimal version, and that's way too small. So we're going to go ahead and multiply by 100% to find that it is 28%. Right? But probably that would make sense to do this one mentally. It would make more sense to do this one mentally if we conceptualize it with a proportion. So what number out of 100 is equal to 14, there's the is again, over 50, the of, once again, the is over the of, right? So if you have n over 100 is equal to 14 out of 50, you could probably see that 50 goes into 100 exactly 2 times. So 14 is going to go be multiplied by 2 as well, and this n is going to come out to that same exact solution of 28. Okay, let's see if we get one more to kind of round out this lesson and move on with our lives. So this one says 5 is 2% of what? 5 is 2% of what? I'm going to skip, for the sake of time, I'm going to skip the equation. Let's just go ahead and write a proportion. Okay, 5 is 2% of what? So in this case, is 5 the part or the whole? 5 is 2% of what? Okay, well, in this case, even if you're having a hard time thinking about, okay, is 5 the part of the whole, it is next to the word is. Okay, and as that cheat hack has kind of indicated, is representing the part. I'm looking for the whole that 5 is 2% of. Okay, so the 2, going to drop the percentage sign and put it over 100, is equal to 5 out of what number? So 2 relative to 100 is equal to 5 out of what number? And let's go ahead and solve that cross product equation. So I've got 2 times x as the one cross product, and I've got 100 times 5 as the other cross product, and the other cross product is, of course, 500. And I'm going to divide by 2, and this is mental mathable, I guess. 500 over 2 is 250. Now let's put it back to see if that makes any sense or not. Okay, so would 5 be representing 2% of 250? And that kind of makes sense to me because, well, if I multiply 100 times 2.5, I would get the 250 as the whole. And if I multiply 2 times 2.5, I also get 5. So this does actually make sense proportionally. Okay, I'm going to stop the lesson video right there because I think this is probably a review for pre-algebra students. But either way, the homework for today is 6.41, and it is a 2-sided sheet, and I think everyone should have it. If you don't, as the housekeeping indicated, everything is in the student folder. I hope everyone's having a good day. Hope the weather's nice where you are, and I will see you over the chat. See ya.